Okay guys, I'm here at Brothers VW Machine Shop. Excellent place to get machine work done. I'm just going to show you guys a couple things here. This is the 80 millimeter from AA Performance cylinder. Okay, if you notice it has this edge on here, and a lot of times they have to machine this down so they'll fit together because they'll touch right here. Sometimes when they deck this a little bit, it ends up being a conflict and they have to kind of clean that up a little bit. With the 81s, if you notice here, they don't have all that. They're round more like the other cylinders are in the other performance ones, you know, for your 1600s and stuff. Couple of really other cool options. They build these here, so they have these forged pistons here for the 80s. So they'll use the cylinders and then use these forged pistons. And check out these rods real quick. So these are 3/8. So this is your rod, right? This one's your rod?
No,
that one's yours, the lightweight one. So this is the AA Performance rod. Let's look at the weight. 555.2 grams. Let's look at this one. 490. I know. I was saying it was 100 grams. I was pretty close. Wait a minute. So, if you want some lightweight rods for your 36, and these things look like really good quality, they have them at Brothers VW Machine Shop. Crazy. All right, guys. So we're going to continue. Hopefully, the sound's good on this different device. I haven't used it yet, so we'll see. But anyway, I've got the cylinder tin here. We're going to do some of the stuff. We're doing the pre-build stuff right now. I've been cleaning parts, just stripping down crankshafts. There's just tons of stuff going on. It's a lot of work before you ever get to the build. So they show here in the book that you trim the, what's this? Oh, that's for the linkage. I was just looking at it a little bit ago. Okay, that's for the linkage. And you got to trim the tin to get it to fit. Because now you've got dual port tin on a single port tin. So what I'm using is I got these engine tin recently. If you guys were watching the videos, I got another 36 horse motor and we're tearing it down. And I went ahead and got the tin off of that one because it's kind of rusty. You know, there's a couple bad spots in it. I'm going to fix this. Just going to throw a little piece of metal on there and fix that. And it's behind anyway, so even if there's a little seam back there, you won't be able to see it. This is 3 and 4. The 1 and 2 one is in good shape. It's only this is the issue right here. So anyway, but what you have to do is cut out this little pattern here, and you lay it out. You can see the 2 holes, and tape it on here. So it's basically like sign business. We do this kind of thing. We use pat. All right, so I went ahead and taped the pattern down. You can put tape all the way around it if you want, but just make sure it's held down nice and straight if you're going to do yours. The thing is you know, you've got to have it all the way into the corner. The better you tape it, the better it will stay. So I can tape it like this really good all the way around it. Push this into the corner really good, push that in the corner. And then what I'm going to do is trace this with a Sharpie. And then they show like this. It looks like it's a lot thinner if you look here. So I'm sure I'll have to do this a couple times. What I'm going to try and do is leave the top edge connected and then trim everything up to it. Just trim the sides, trim this part, trim that, trim the corners over here, and then just set it on the cylinder and check it a couple times. So just from setting this on here, you can see that pattern isn't the greatest. A lot of guys have said this before. So keep that in mind. Like I got to trim out a little further in the corners a little bit. So I'm kind of looking at that. And so it's going to take a little bit of work to make this. But my goal is to possibly leave this tab here and bend this in so that the air will find its way around better. So I don't have too much of a hole in there around this cylinder tin. I don't know, maybe we'll just see how it works out. You know, it should work the way it comes out of the package, but maybe we can make it a little bit better if we can't. I don't know. All right, so I'm going to show you guys where we're at right now. I just did like it showed in the pattern, and you can see there's no possible way that would ever fit. In fact, I don't even know how it's going to be. You know, they show that this thing goes all the way right up to like still keeping the circle. I really don't see how it's possible, but I'll grind it way up to that. I'm using a regular grinder like this to do some of it, and then the fine tuning I'm doing with the little finger sander, the little belt sander. So anyway, I'm going to try and grind some more with the big tool, just because I got to get it right next to that circle. I still don't think it's going to fit. I almost think you got to take that out and just go over. And there definitely is going to be some leakage there, but it shouldn't be that bad. I mean, the manifold's going to be in there, right? So anyway, it's about the best you can do though. All right, so I went back to the manual and figured out that I guess what you have to do is put the intake manifold and this all as one assembly. I don't think it's going to matter whether you cut out the way I did or leave the little thing there. As long as you slide on those little things. We never lip them on there. I've never done that. I've always just slid them up there to cover the hole. As long as they're covering the hole, that's fine for spark plug wires. And this should be fine the way I've got it right now. But you have to put it all as assembly. Put this on and this on all at the same time. All right? So, and then it says after you do that, you put the engine in the car. Okay. I don't know if you can get that in there with the intake manifolds on there. I would say more than likely you can't. But you guys can always comment that below. Maybe you can. And I don't know. Another thing I noticed in here is it says not to exceed 3,000 RPMs on your stock 36 horse motor. Be sure the VW Must models had a top speed of 50 miles per hour at 3,000 RPMs. If you would like this rate to change, you should change your gear ratios, because these engines were only designed to go up to 3,000 RPMs. 17 millimeter oil pump stock. Yeah, that's why I would put a 26 or 21, something bigger than the 17, because the 17 had a 3,000 RPM limit. That's why my other engine blew up in that thing, because I had a 17 millimeter pump, and I know I hit about 3,800 or 4,000 RPMs for a period of time, and it not long after seized. So if you're going to do it, another thing I would do if you did this, if you're going to do this alone, if you're going to put this kit on your engine and you're not going to put anything else on it, I would definitely take the oil pump out, okay, and replace it with a bigger oil pump. Just, that's what I would do. You guys do whatever you want. But that 17 that comes in these things was just marginal. So anyway, the engineers figured out that it would work, and that's what they limited it at. So if you're going to do more than that, which I'm sure you will, make sure you correct that problem. Go to the 21 or 26 or 26. I think is probably good for the, you know, the extra mods. If you're going to do the full flow and all that, I would say to do that too. Go to the 26. I don't know, you know, some guys may say, I don't even going to get a 30 for this thing, but the oil passages are very small. I don't know what problems it would create going that much, but the 21 I think is probably fine for a stock motor, and as long as you're not putting a lot of RPMs in it. And then the 26 if you're going to go some sort of small full flow, because it's a really small, I think it's even like an AN6 or something. I don't know. I haven't got to that yet, so we'll find out later. All right, so we're on pre-build right now. I do a lot of stuff way before I get to building the engine. That's actually probably the easier part. But what I do is I'll set the bearings in place, and at the same time while I'm checking them to make sure that their thrust cut is right, that they fit, and I've checked them on the crankshaft to make sure they're correctly in the box, fill a proper amount of plate. I'm going to put them in place with the dowel pins in, so that I can mark the bearing. I'll show you in a second. All right, so it screws me up when I'm holding the camera because I started putting the wrong bearing in. Of course, when I'm looking at it, I know where it goes. So I'm going to mark right here the case, and I'm going to mark, not the case, but the bearing. Okay, and I'm going to mark here. You kind of know where this one goes because it has that little shape right there. And mark these here. If you want to, you can even kind of go like that. That way you'll know that that goes to the back of the car. And this one, same thing. Okay, we'll just wipe that off like a dry erase marker, right? Kind of does that when it's still wet. And then we'll mark here. Make it a little easier when I'm setting the crankshaft in. Like that. All right. All right, I got to tell you guys, these 36 horsepower motors are way different than 1600 and stuff. But, so you got your dowel pin here, and you can see, I got you guys out of frame there. You can see the dowel pin right here, and it's right in the middle of the oil groove, because there's no oil groove in the bearing. So what I figured, this could go on here either way because the dowel pin's centered, all right? So I figured that the oil hole that's closest to the dowel pin should go here. That's it, because the other hole's way over here. And if I put it on the other way, the hole would be up here. It would be up here further away. So I think it's better if it has the oil closer. I don't know if that's correct or not, but that's how I'm doing it. So I marked my bearing as such with the oil hole over here. Of course, getting the gear hot, gotta flip it over, like, you know, like making eggs or whatever. Just get gear hot, flip it over a little bit. Tapered side to the back. And the spacer. Brass gear. All right, so if you're wondering where you get these to put the snap ring in, you can get them on Amazon. These are Knipex. Knipex, I guess. I don't know how you say it. Everybody's got a different way. But anyway, make sure that ring is all the way in. And this one is. You can always take the ring and put it in the groove and make sure it's straight up and down before you put it in. I didn't show you guys that, so I didn't. I put it on, and we're all the way in. It's tight. This bearing. Again, on the 36 horse, they don't have an offset pin on these, so you got to check everything. See the little oil hole there? All right, that needs to line up with that hole. So that's how you kind of know. From what I can tell, like I said, I've never put one of these together. It's definitely different than the other ones. And usually this thing's on this side, so I think that's where we're gonna let her land. All right, so the rod bearings on these, I'm just going to use a little bit of Scotch. It's like a light Scotch-Brite, and just remove the coating that's on here. This coating that's on these, I believe, is just, and I'll wipe them clean with a rag after that. This coating that's on here, not pushing on it very hard or anything like that, just kind of getting that stuff off, and then the little bit of left that's on there will help hold the oil. I believe this coating that's on here is just something that's on there to protect the bearings while they're in storage, because we used to find it in the oil. Somebody said that you're not supposed to remove this, but I think what they were talking about, what's on the Clevite, I'm trying to think, they have a black coating on them. No, you don't remove that stuff. That stuff's there. That's a special coating. I mean, they have bearings that you get coated with this special coating, and I used to just use a rag and wipe this stuff off, but the shop used to do this, and all it does is just, it looks like it's sanded or whatever, but it's really not. It's just barely taking that off. Then I'll take acetone on a rag and clean them, and then we'll put them in the rods. I'll clean them with a bit of acetone, like that, just to get off whatever residue. That loosens it up. You can see that's just perfect. It's not scored or anything. Just clean off all that stuff off there. That's why I've done it for years. I've done, I don't know how many engines. I did my S10. I remember back years ago, I did my Chevy S10 engine, and I did like a used parts rebuild, put brand new crankshaft and camshaft and everything in it, cleaned up the pistons, and I did I just put new rings in it. That engine ran better than it did. My dad bought the truck brand new. It ran better than it did when he brought it home from the dealer. It always kind of had a little shakiness to it, and the intake manifold vacuum had a leak, and it's somewhere because they didn't properly put the gaskets on, and it never had that again. When I was done with it, it was just ran absolutely perfect, and I put like 70,000 miles on it with used pistons. I've done this before. Okay, but I've done a bunch of VWs too. These are all cleaned up. Put them on. When I put the bearings in, I don't push here in the middle. Push at the ends. Put them in the, just kind of make sure it's all the way in like that. I push on the ends mostly. Same as the rod. Hold the bearing like this. Stick it in here. It's hard to make sure I'm in frame and pushing on this in the right place. Okay, and I'll push on the ends. Get it in place. Oil them. And put them on like that. And put a little bit of oil on the threads of the rods. One thing I wanted to point out on these is, unlike the 1600, the numbers or the aftermarket rods and stuff like that, the numbers are on the same side as the tangs. That's the tang right there, and that's the number. So I had to stop and kind of figure things out, because I've always thought numbers up, tangs down, and it's going to be numbers down, tangs down, I guess, because that's how it goes. I mean, I couldn't find any information on the 36 horse. I was looking at stuff like the oil holes here are the same. Unlike, I think the 1600 has them facing different directions, so that's why they have to be down, but I don't know. I'm going to go with tangs down. Again, oil the threads, oil the base, grease it if you want to use that other high pressure grease. I think either one's fine. All right, so you peen the rods. I do all these. This is only on the 40 horse, 36 horse. Oh, wrong way. There's like a little groove in there. And you just kind of knock a little burr in it. Hey, let's take a look at something here. So I'm putting the cam gear on. Maybe you don't know how to do this. If you look at the back lobe, the one furthest from it should be down. And the timing mark, if you can see it, should be up. So back lobe down, timing mark up. Now I'm going to show you something else too while we got it here. I got the stock cam. I had to kind of remember this stuff. It's been a while since I put a cam gear on. I've gotten these regrinds that I'm getting, and they're really a good deal, the way to go if you guys wanted to know. If you can, I don't know if you can even see it. Maybe you can, maybe not. Look at the lobe difference profile on that. How much more duration there is in this cam. Remember, I always tell you guys, the weak point in Volkswagens is the cam duration. Look at how much flatter that lobe is than this one. That one's pointed. That one's way flatter. So it's got way more duration. It has more lift. You can just look at it and see it. I mean, it's got way more lift, way more duration. So that just gives you an idea. This is a way bigger cam than the stock one. So the 227 at 0.050, it could be, from what I looked at, like 260, 270 or more duration. So yeah, and then if you go to the ratio rockers, it takes it to like 400 lift. So like 400 lift and 260, 270 somewhere in duration is a lot for that size motor, but the duration will really help it out a lot. So anyway, I could add the ratio rockers and give it a lot more juice. I mean, a lot more cam. So anyway, duration is the key. That's the biggest thing missing on stock cams, VWs. So remember, the lobe down, mark up. You can see the line here goes up. So I'm still kind of in mock-up. I've still got to take this all apart. I've got some machine work to do here, but I wanted to put this crank in and check it. A couple things. I wanted to hear this. If I can. There's just a little tiny bit. It's pretty tight, but it's fine. If there's anything, it's okay. So there's a little bit of noise there, which is good. This gear is going to wear in a little bit because it's brand new, and I can feel just a tiny little bit of, hear it? Okay, a little bit of gear lash. That's what we want. So another thing is, because they only make a 0. So anyway, another thing is I check the clearance. Let's rotate this around a little bit. You can see it hits here, right? But that's not where the rod's going to be. It's going to be over here, right? It's going to be on the piston. So that's what you check for. You don't check where it's way over here. You check where it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be here. If you look where the rod is here, all the way up, right? There is still I'd say probably 3 millimeters of clearance or so. So even with a 74, you might not have to do much, but you might have to do something with the 74 setup. So just a little bit with one of those finger sanders, the belt sander. So yeah, we don't have to do anything. I've rotated this around. I've checked for places that it could possibly hit, and it does not. So it's pretty, it's just kind of goofy where it's at. Oh, I got the rod stuck. All right, guys, so we ran into a problem here. If you can see where the rod is, it would be right here, centered, and it hits the cam lobe right there. So I marked it black. So I you know, this is stuff we don't know. I thought stock rods would work, but you know, if you guys are going to want to not have to do what we're going to do right now, I think we can machine off that corner without damaging anything. So we'll do that and gram scale them up, make sure they're done, maybe do both sides a little bit. But yeah, George wanted to see it because he's like, man, what the heck? So yeah, it does hit. So we've got the cam in. We do have a little bit of play in this guy. I know I've checked it. Hear it? Anyway, and just a little, it's real tight, but it's perfect, it'll work. And then we're just gonna see if we can machine these versus buy a new one. So if you wanted to, you could buy the clearance rods, but we're gonna go for just machining the corners off. Knock the corner off. It's not into the threads or anything, just the corner. So if it was into the threads, then you kind of go, no good. All right, talk to you guys a little bit later. All right, so we were noticing that we measured these things on the gram scale. We're kind of trying to get them balanced. So, and we noticed this one was, this is a light rod, and this one's heavier by quite a bit. And if you notice, look at the back side of this rod, right here, and look how thick this one is. The ribs are deeper, and from what you know, we've had back in the old days, is how they did it. You know, they lightened up rods by doing this stuff, or made them clearance that way. Oh, now it's 418. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're really close. Yeah. So they're both 418. Oh, so you got that one down the same. So that's what we're doing, is we're taking it off where the casting is too thick. And this is the way the good old Remco used to do it years ago. That's why we got them. So we're doing that. Plus we're just cleaning up the ends, that a little bit, so they clear that and getting them balanced. So it'll be real nice. All right, guys, there's tons of mock-up to do on this thing because, I mean, this thing never came with a 26 on it. So I don't know. Yeah, they should be the same, right? But I've had to grind this end down. So that's magic marker. It's magic marker. So I put this on here, put the cam in there, spin it back, you know, do a little bit of this. I'm having to grind down my bolts a little more. I need to make sure they're plenty of clearance. They're barely touching right now. The one is. I want to make sure that they don't hit. You see how much I had to grind that? Okay, grade 8 bolts. I mean, even the ones that are supposed to, kit ones, I looked at them, they're not. I have some of those and they're too long for this. Because again, this one didn't have all that. So another thing is I put this gear in. You really got to check these oil pumps. I mean, even on all your engine builds, you should check them, but see how far out that is? No good. So yeah, I'm gonna have to I'm probably gonna have to take a little bit off the end and then take a little bit off of the shoulder. Yeah, off of this shoulder right here. I'll probably have to take that grind a little bit down so that, you know, maybe a, I don't know, like 50 thousandths or so. And yeah, I'll just have to take cutoff wheel. I'll real carefully grind that off of there. I cut myself. But anyway, and get that nice and straight. I mean, all that thing does is just sit in this groove, right? It's not like it's super perfectly machined. And the oil pump, you know, it turns the oil pump in that groove in there. So anyway, if I just cut away a little bit there, it should be all right. But it's got to be, it has to fit. This is all the stuff that on these 36s, man, you got to really watch it. Because when I put it in here, it was sticking out, you know, like that. And, you know, there's a gasket thickness, but that's really nothing. I wouldn't even, I'm going to make sure it fits without the gasket surface. And then when it adds the gasket, that whatever 1,000ths or whatever, that I don't want it pushing on the cam at all, because that'll just wear this out. And who knows what else. So it should be just riding there. It's a lot closer than it was. I'll get it all tightened up and then I'll show you what I did. Now let's see what we ended up with here. So what I did, if you can even tell, I don't know, let's see if I can get you guys up close enough, is I had to ground this part where it's black. That's magic marker that's on there. And then I ground, if you can see, this pin, I had to grind slightly below the surface, okay? About 5-10 thousandths in there, so it doesn't matter. As long as it's below the surface, because if it's above the surface, okay, when I put this on and I tighten this down, okay, get you guys back a little bit so you can see. Okay, so get you guys back. So if it's not below the surface, and when I turn the cam, right, it could have one little high spot, and then when I turn this around, that'll push the gear out. It'll rub against the housing and put metal shavings in stuff. We don't want that. So a little bit of precise, you know, backyard machine work, and that's fitting on there nicely. And so again, I'm gonna sit there with a file. Now that I'm done, I'm gonna clean up all the little burrs around the edge. All that's got to be off of there. We don't want those little pieces of metal in the oil. So this is the type of thing that I like to do, you know, make sure it's right. And I've still got to plug this oil pump because we're full flowing. And then I want to see if there's a way to drill this opening up a little bit bigger, maybe. Just gonna really look at it, or at least kind of open the mouth of it up a little bit so that it has, you know, it matches up a little bit better. If you notice, there's a big difference. So if you look here where the hole lines up there, get in there with my borescope, I guess, and see how that lines up. I know the dogs have been just whining all day long. Poor neighbor. The dog's just, so I'm going to try to open it up. Maybe I can open that up just a little bit bigger. So I'll take this screw out, open that up. I've already cleaned all the passages out of here, put plugs in it. All the plugs are done. So I've cleaned out all the gook out of there. There wasn't much, really wasn't much at all. I probably didn't need to do it, but I did it anyway. So anyway, I'm gonna take that plug out. I don't know how big that is. I mean, it looks like it's bigger than this. I'm gonna measure this stuff, measure that, measure this hole, and see if it will help any if I drill that out a little bit bigger, and then maybe kind of open it up a little bit more so that it matches. It's nowhere gonna get near that, okay? But if it gets a little closer, it'll help the oil flow a little bit better. On the prime side, On the pressure side, there's nothing I can do. It's tiny. All this stuff is real small. So, but the reason for this is that if I run this into an AN8, okay, and I run it through and I go ahead and prime my oil filter and all that, it'll prime with more volume, so it won't run dry as long. What you know, when you change the oil or whatever, if I put a spin-on filter or whatever I do. So that's the reason for doing this bigger. So anyway, and I gotta have the large studs here so that I can put the cover on. I don't think they make us cover with 10 millimeter or 6 millimeter studs. I don't think they do. So I'm unaware of one. Maybe they do. I'll go look for it maybe right now. All right, guys, so let's take a look here. I've got everything masked off. I cleaned this, sanded it with Scotch-Brite, the whole thing. I kind of wet sanded it using Scotch-Brite and spray gun cleaner. Hit it with silicone, anti-silicone. It's a wax and grease remover. And I've done everything I can do to clean this thing up and prep it, and that's as good as it gets to look. So that's why we're going to paint it. So we're going to hit this thing with some Cerakote. See how much better it looks. I got it super clean, sanded. Doesn't look like it, but it is. That's just like the dust from the stuff. I sprayed it off, cleaned it as best I can, so it should be good enough to paint. All right, so before I decided just to change it up a little bit here, guys, I went to the H-Rod, and there's no middle ground on these things. Either you do H-Rods or you do stock rods. The stock rods are basically marginal, and it's not just one reason why I'm going with them. There's a few different things. The rods I had, I just wasn't really happy with the way they balanced. It looked like there was two half sets. A couple of issues with them. They were just like, they just didn't balance. I wasn't real happy with the way they balanced. And they're already kind of marginal, okay, with this horsepower upgrade we're doing. I mean, what we might be at like 60, 65. I don't think we'll hit 70, but let's say we were at 65 horse. I mean, it's very possible. You know, with those rods and them not being balanced very well, you know, it just doesn't seem to make sense to save a little bit of money. These are, they're not cheap. Nothing's cheap for a 36, but there's no other option. You don't have like a middle, like if they had I-beam chromoly rods, that's what I would have used, but they just don't have them, you know, so we're switched to the chromoly. I'm not going with the ARP bolts. I don't think it's really necessary on this small of an engine. We're going to use the China bolts, which I use, you know, I've used many times and had no issues with them. Like on this bucket truck engine, I went with the ARPs because I am maxing this thing out. I'm floored all the time. You know, that's a lot of stress. So I figured just go for the insurance policy of the ARP bolts. If you're revving it to the moon, then yeah, but listen, you guys, one of these 36 horsepower engines, you're not going to be revving it. I hope you wouldn't. There's just, the oil passages on this thing are tiny. So we're going to try and get as much supply up there as possible with this 26, and it's all going to be right up to here. But what it does past that thing and goes into the case, I don't know. Definitely, I don't want to put very many RPMs into it. So the ARP bolts really aren't necessary for my engine build. I'm not going to try and, you know, win the 36 horsepower challenge or anything like that. So I'm not going to push it to the limit. You know, I'm just going to drive it. So I figured that would, the rods are a little overkill, but they're going to make it a little stronger and make me feel a little bit better, that I'm not going to be that worried about, you know, pushing it too hard. And then, you know, you got a $600 crankshaft, you got $600 pistons, you got $250 cam, you got a, you know, a whole bunch of, the lifters are freaking $200 to $300. You know, all the stuff that's in this engine is super expensive, and just to save a few $100s to get the rods, it's just not worth it. I figured just put them in there, you know, since I've got all the best parts in here. That's just, you know, go big, you know, so we don't look back. Case looks amazing. This stuff is like part of the metal. That's why you want to mask everything off really good, okay? Because wherever this paint is, you aren't moving it. It's there. So this stuff is great. I would definitely recommend painting a case with this stuff. That's the only thing I would use. And it's supposed to be to 500 degrees Celsius or something crazy. So it should be fine. And it looks really nice. I just like it. I will definitely use that again on another, you know, this is a custom engine. I'm gonna try and make it look nice too. So anyway, well, I'm gonna put this in the case here in a little bit. I'm gonna make sure everything's clean. I gotta blow this off one more time. Not today, I'll do it tomorrow. And then I'll get those, you know, gotta torque my rod still. And then the torque specs are on AA's website if you're wondering. So anyway, for the Chinese bolts. ARPs, they're super tight. You know, check their website. You'll be shocked how tight they go. There's rod, you can do the stretch method, or you can just torque them down super tight. But anyway, don't need to go there. Not for this engine. But I definitely wanted the rods just to be safe. I main bearing, check it. Looking good there. This is ready to go in the case. So I'm going to go ahead and set this guy in. Make sure my oil hole is lined up the right direction. These you can definitely do wrong, I think. Make sure it's in the case nice and flat. All right, so that's good. Now I want to show you guys something here. Let's take a look. So I had to clearance the AA rods. They did not make it. I mean, I had to take quite a bit off. If you can see, there's still quite a bit for the threads. You know, unfortunately, you get into that part of the rod a little closer than I like to be, but it's fine. You know, it's still stronger than the other rod. So anyway, had to clearance them. I'll show you how close it is. There you go. There. With the 0 is between the two dots, right? So we're lined up there. And we rotate this around to right here. And if you can see, okay, that's off center. So I bring it over to center. It clears. I don't know if I can let it push, but it clears this cam. And so I don't know what they changed in the later years. We can take a look. So here's the later model cam. You can see the lobes are in different positions. So the lobes are more lined up with not with the rods, but with the, you know, I don't know where the crank is, but I think it lines up not with the lobes, with the, if I recall correctly on the later models. I haven't done that many in recent years. It's big stroker motors. I mean, it's been a long time since I took one of those apart, but if I recall correctly, the counterweights are what conflict with the with the rod cam right here. Okay, on this 36 horse, it conflicts with, see, it hits right there, and look, I'm off center though. So, but if it's in the middle, it clears. Okay, so same thing with the second lobe as you go around here. So I had a little difficulty there, but if you see here, this lobe here, right now it's hitting, but when it's centered, so look, right now it hits. Okay, where am I at? There we go. Centered is over here. So when it's centered though, it doesn't hit now after machining it. So it was that close. I mean, literally it hits the cam if it's not completely centered. So it's really, really close. And I put a feeler gauge in there. It's about, I gave myself about 15 thousandths clearance. That's about it. Of course, rod is stuck. All right, so I'm going to take it apart again and do a little bit of cleaning, but I wanted to at least put this thing together so I can get a deck height. All right, let's just take a look at the deck height here. So we're at inches. We definitely want it in inches. That's what I'm used to working with you guys in Europe. I know I'm going to confuse you guys a little bit. Ooh. A little better than we did last time. I'm at 69, 70. So I'm going to say 70 thousandths. By the time I tighten this down, it's going to be a little less, but that's okay. So 70 thousandths up. So if I have an 80 thousandth shim, which I do have, let's look here. Got an 80 thousandth shim. 90 thousandths, 86, you know. As I said, everybody goes, oh, you gotta have it exactly tightened down, everything perfect before you can check your deck height. Well, got news for you. It changes because thickness of the shims is not exactly the amount that you calculate it. So just, you kind of got to have a pretty rough idea. And then just don't go, when you get it done, check it. Then you put the stuff on it and tighten everything down and check it before you put your heads on. Yeah, that's the way I do it. Do it how you want. But anyway, that'll give me 21 with just 90,000 shims on there. That's actually perfect. Good. I thought I was going to have to put 120 thousandths in shims on here. So that actually corrected. The rods are actually 20 thousandths shorter than the stock ones that I put on here. So I think, unless I have that in the video, then maybe that's just what I remember. I thought it was one, yeah, I think I was going to put down 110. So I was, yeah. I was going to put 110 thousandths in shims down, so yeah, 20 thousandths shorter is what yep, 20 thousandths. Okay, so pretty cool. One shim should get me to 0, near close to it. It's, you know, I got, so if I tighten this down, let's say I'm a little off, right? We know it's going to be slightly off. We're going to find that out once we get everything. This is just to get my heads in the shop to get work done. So I'm at 16. So I could be at 16 and a half. Let's see over here. Roughly 17 over here. 17 and a half. So let's go with the lowest number, 16. Tighten this down, I get 2 more thousandths, 3 more thousandths, right? I'm still at 10, let's just say 10 thousandths here. That's okay, because if I get this thing, take this cylinder down, and I have them step cut the head, let's say 50 thousandths step. All right, I'll have the 10 thousandths here, plus another 50 thousandths in the head. And if I tighten this down and I'm 2 or 3 thousandths tighter, okay, or 5 thousandths tighter if I'm really wrong, don't think I will be, but let's just say I am. Tighten this down nice. I'm 2 thousandths further down. I'm still at 45 to 50, which is fine, as long as it's not below 45. So I'll have them step cut it, and I got 20,000 shims I can add. So if for some reason when I tighten this down, I can add another 20 in here just to get a little bit more deck height. Then what I'll have them do is open these up, step cut the head 20 or 50 thousandths, all right, and then I should be good to go. I'll calculate this out off camera, make sure double do my math, and make sure we're good to go. Get the heads down to brothers, because it's always a wait. All right, bring you back in. All right, making sure I didn't forget anything. Got our cam plug. I think we'll run it that way. Fill that little thing up with oil, kind of give it a little supply area for the cam. It doesn't really matter, I don't think. But I got my cam lube on here. This, yeah, I don't know, whatever it is, high ZDDP stuff. A little Honda Bond, you guys. A motorcycle trick here, guys. And see which side of the case I'm putting this on? Yeah. Take notes. I'm not putting it on this side. Why? Because I got all the studs in the way, and the pins, the shuffle pins and all that. I put up on the flat side of the case. And on this one, we don't have to put push rods in. Push rods, or lifters in. Thinking, trucking, and working at the same time. Guess we need it around that too. And then over here, be careful from the oil return. And then we need it right there. And we'll smear it with the old finger, with the old digit. Do it digitally. You don't ever want to hear the doctor say that. We're going to do a digital removal. Oh, God. All right, guys. So spread this on here. Put the case half together. I can do that too. And get her done. All right, so we got end movement real nice. It's a little bit tight because of the oil I use, but it's fine. It's in the way it's supposed to be range, so it feels a little tiny bit tight, but it's just, I think it's the oil. So anyway, everything looks good. Rods fit good. Just gonna let this thing sit here and cover it up here. I'll bag it with a trash bag here. I'm waiting for the heads now, so I dropped the heads off and then figured out what we wanted to do. We'll see how they turn out, what we're looking for. Again, what we're trying to do is we're going to run a very, very tight deck height, and then our deck height's going to be a chamber in the head that he's going to open. We step cut the heads so that the chamber, so that the piston can be at 0 and not hit the head, or not 0, but we're going to go like 10 thousandths or something. So then we're going to have a pretty tight deck height of 40 thousandths above that. So in the head. So anyway, if you can kind of figure that out, you have to have deck height, but there's a lot of different ways to do it. Instead of running it in the barrel, we're going to run it in the head. Okay, so we're cutting the barrel, a step in the head that fits the barrel in it perfectly, and when the piston goes all the way to the top, it'll still have 40 thousandths clearance or 50 thousandths clearance between the head and the piston, or 55 thousand, somewhere in there. Doesn't matter. On this motor, we're not going to be having any kind of rod stretch. We're not going to be revving this thing up. Believe me, the oiling system on these things is marginal. We are not going to rev this engine up very high, just because the oiling system is not that great. So don't think you can build one of these things and rev it up to 7,000. Well, you probably could. It wouldn't last, but that sort of thing. You could try and open up all the galleries somehow, and maybe, but no, I don't think so. Anyway, that's it for this portion of the video. I think what we're going to do is, once we get the heads, we'll do our mock-up there. A lot of guys are wondering, push rods, still don't know yet. See, I'm trying to narrow this up right now. That's what I've been running machine shop numbers, and then I've got pistons that I might deck to bring the engine more narrow, okay? So I'll have less shims here, but I'm decking the pistons, or the heads, a little bit. So if I come out stock length, that's what I want to do. I want to kind of come out stock length so that my push rods are very close, and then I'll put them in with the lifters on the ends of them, and then instead of doing the cut to fit ones, those are very expensive, by the way, because you got to buy the lifters. The lifter sets are more than the stock ones, and then you have to buy the cut to fit push rods. I mean, you can use some old aluminum ones. I have some laying around. I could probably do that. Still haven't decided yet on that, but I think I'm going to try to do those, or use the spacers or machine spacers to my specs that are going to work. So I think we can do that without spending a ton of money. A lot cheaper, by less than half the price to go with the other lifters. So anyway, there's that issue. We're trying to keep it cheap as possible, but do a good job. So anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. Talk to you in the next video. Please like, share, and subscribe.